Let's talk about some groundbreaking carnivore research. Hello, I'm Dr. Sam, this is Dr. Sam's Health, and today I would like to talk about carnivore diet. I haven't spoken about carnivore diet much, or maybe even at all, and I would like to talk about this diet at a certain point, but there is not much research on this diet, quite frankly, and recently there was a publication on some case report in some patient in Florida who suffered from certain medical condition called Xanthelasma, and the authors of this report linked it to the carnivore diet, and I think it's definitely worth talking about. Before we proceed to the actual report, I would like to make my regular disclaimers. First of all, I'm a medical doctor, but I do not practice medicine or psychiatry here on YouTube, of course, and I express my opinions in good faith. I do some research prior to expressing them, but by all means, none of these opinions are meant to represent the opinions of my colleagues, my profession, psychiatry, medicine, or my governing bodies. So all I'm doing here is just like talking about things that I think would be interesting to you. And also, specifically for this video, I would like to say that I am not very pro or against carnivore diet. I believe that we are omnivores, and the best diet you can design for yourself would be something along the lines of the rational diet. But if anything, I'm actually closer to the carnivore on the spectrum between vegans and carnivores. I try to consume usually quite balanced diet, but I tend to gravitate towards meats. I love meat. I like good steak, chicken, and so on. So it was very curious for me to see the case report published on carnivore diet, and I would like to just share with you my impressions based on this particular case report. So let's get to the meat of that. JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, by the way, very reputable journal with high impact factor, has just published a case report on a gentleman who developed a condition called Xanthelasma, and the title of the case report is Yellowish Nodules on a Man Consuming a Carnivore Diet. They have published pictures here. You can actually find this report online. I found it first and I thought it was just the abstract, and I clearly needed more details. But when I looked into the report, it turned out that pretty much all the information presented in the abstract is essentially the case report. There is nothing else to look for further. So essentially this case report is in public domain. You can check it out yourselves. And before we even talk about this case report, I would like to say that I'm not a huge fan of case reports. In a way, case reports are the simplest way of reporting some sort of curious observations that we had in our clinical practice or in our research initiatives. And usually the idea is just to draw someone's attention to some unusual phenomena that are happening, side effects. But, these case reports, they carry not too much value. There are case reports, there are case series. The ideal scenario or ideal kind of research for pretty much any kind of interventional studies is randomized controlled trials. That is very far from that. And quite frankly, I'm not even sure why they had to publish this case report. So in this case report, somebody developed essentially fat deposits or cholesterol deposits in all over their body. They had this yellowish nodules, and they made a very, very short, very simple case report that I think is quite frankly inadequate to the goal. I actually have a unique opportunity to actually read through whole case report and to essentially break it down into sentences. So, as I said, the title of the case report is Yellowish Nodules on a Man Consuming a Carnivore Diet. There are 3 authors, which is quite frankly one subject, 3 authors, and there are 2 paragraphs, and maybe we can condense into 1 paragraph, maybe 200 words. So, but I can read it. A man in his 40s presented with a 3-week history of asymptomatic yellowish nodules on his palms, soles, and elbows. Okay, 3-week history, please remember this. I'm not sure if we can call it asymptomatic if somebody showed up to the hospital with certain signs of metabolic or other kind of dysfunction. But that's just semantics or linguistics here. The next phrase is the patient adopted a carnivore diet approximately 8 months before presentation. So somebody has been on a carnivore diet for 8 months, and they only developed these yellowish nodules 3 weeks ago. That already kind of goes against the idea that the carnivore diet is or the diet in general is the culprit here, but obviously you can do harm to yourself for extended period of time until it manifests. But immediately this report makes me think that if somebody followed some diet for 7 months, even if it's like such an extreme diet as carnivore diet, nothing was happening, and suddenly something changed and they started developing these yellowish nodules, that makes me think that there is something else involved. The next thing is they describe the dietary habits of this gentleman, and there is a very peculiar sentence, and a lot of YouTubers or commentators have picked up on that sentence. His dietary habits included a high intake of fats consisting of 6 to 9 pounds of cheese, sticks of butter, and additional fat incorporated into his daily hamburgers. So a lot of people said that, based on this report, they think that the person consumed 6 to 9 pounds of cheese per day. I don't think that this sentence necessarily means that exactly. It looks like the person has been consuming hamburgers on a daily basis and also supplemented it with lots of cheese and butter sticks. But quite frankly, I find it hard to believe that somebody can consume 6 to 9 pounds of cheese per day. As a doctor, I cannot actually advise anybody to try doing this at home, but it's actually very hard to do. So if you ever have access to, most of the people have access to cheese, but if you ever have like a decent amount of cheese at home, you can try eating some cheese and see how fast you will get satiated. I'm pretty sure that even consuming 1 pound of cheese will leave you quite satiated and full. Eating 9 pounds of cheese on a separate day is actually quite a feat. There are some people who are competitive eaters. Maybe something like that would this consumption of cheese would likely fit this kind of population. But somebody eating that much of cheese a day with hamburgers and sticks of butter, it's already quite unrealistic. Likely this person is consuming somewhere like between 10 to 20,000 calories a day, which is a huge amount of energy. And the next sentence, so I don't think it's like plausible. Maybe on some days there were some excess consumptions, but on the other hand, people in this keto diet, carnivore diet population, they sometimes tend to add a lot of fat into their nutrition just because they believe that adding fat helps your body to produce ketone bodies and it improves your mental health, clarity, and so on. And I cannot exclude it, we cannot confirm it. It's just like awkward sentence, and quite frankly, I would appreciate if they were able to actually break it down in more detail. And it's also not clear whether this consumption was happening over the course of whole 8 months. Maybe he just started doing it like a month ago, and 3 weeks ago he developed this yellowish nodules. They claim that he reported weight loss, increased energy, and improved mental clarity over the course of this time, which is something that people on keto diet or carnivore diet are trying to achieve with the keto carnivore diet. And having said that, I would like to mention that, I don't know, it doesn't even sound like a pure carnivore diet. Well, carne means meat. I understand that, when you're on a carnivore diet, you can get some cheese, you can get some eggs, but, it looks like the bulk of his nutrition was actually fat. Animal-based fat, but not meat. So I'm not sure if we can call it carnivore diet to begin with, but whatever. The next thing is physical examination revealed multiple painless yellowish nodules on his palms, and it is shown in the article. If you Google it, if you find this article, you will find it very quickly. You will see the exact yellowish depositions of like cholesterol and fat, which is something that's called Xanthelasma. And this condition is, I cannot say like super prevalent, but is quite prevalent in people, particularly with certain metabolic conditions who have highly elevated cholesterol levels. And what we have here is the next sentence that speaks about this person's cholesterol levels. And I'm smiling right now because I want to read it and make a comment about it. So the patient's cholesterol level exceeded 1,000 milligrams per deciliter, and that's obviously a huge amount, significantly higher than his baseline off level of 210 to 300 milligrams per deciliter. So first of all, it looks like there is a grammatical mistake, but who am I? English is not my first language. But also the authors, they say that they use ChatGPT to check the text. The text is like, I don't know, 200 words tops, maybe 150, and they managed to report the case in such a sloppy way. It's unbelievable, even like allowing for grammatical mistake. And actually there is like a little sub sentence here that to convert to millimoles per liter, multiply by 0.0259. Quite frankly, I don't know why they had to complicate things by writing like instructions on how to convert milligrams per deciliter to millimoles per liter, multiplication formulas and so on. If you can just like produce two numbers, and given that it's like 1,000 milligrams per deciliter, it's actually very easy to do the multiplication here. All you have to do is just like put two numbers and that's it. Anyhow, next thing is that they jump into the diagnosis, which is this condition called Xanthelasma, and the next is the conclusion, which is the case highlights the impact of dietary patterns on lipid levels and the importance of managing hypercholesterolemia to prevent complications. So that is pretty much the whole case. I don't have much to add to that, and I will jump to my impressions of what I think about this case report. The first thing I would like to say is pretty much repeating what I said about case reports earlier, which is case reports are the lowest level of clinical evidence that we can ever get. They just provide us with some insights into some curious cases that have occurred. They definitely have their place. They are good indicators that, you know, show researchers there are certain interesting phenomena and they can focus on this phenomena and just investigate further. Having said that, I believe that there are certain very specific situations when case reports are actually extremely useful. Usually we are talking about situations when something is completely impossible or very implausible. And then we have a case report that shows that actually certain clinical scenario is actually possible and it did happen. So for example, if we had somebody who is eating like 10 pounds of cheese a day and their cholesterol levels are within normal limits, that would be something that would nobody expect. And that is not clearly the case. And actually what they are reporting is pretty much, I would say, that an extreme case of high cholesterol and high lipids in somebody's bloodstream that manifests in this xanthelasma, this yellow discoloration and depositions of fat all over the body. And I would call it pretty much like a cardiologist nightmare, which is exactly the things that people are afraid of when they're talking about some keto diets or carnivore diets, when people are consuming a lot of fat. And usually cardiologists, family doctors, and actually I would say the whole medical community is always very concerned about elevated cholesterol levels. And that's exactly what you are showing here. And I'm not sure if you're doing it in a good way, because first of all, the case report is very sloppy. There is not enough information. There are some grammatical errors. There are some things that definitely pretty much they require further elaboration. Like, for example, how come that this person developed this signs only like 3 weeks ago, whereas this person was on this diet for 8 months? Did this person have this kind of manifestations previously? Does this person have any kind of family history of hypercholesterolemia, and so on and so on and so on? There are so many things. There are so many questions I would like to ask in order to actually make this case stand out and, you know, use it in general to inform anyone's practice. Here we just have a situation when somebody consumes apparently a lot of fat and cholesterol, and this person, not surprisingly, develops certain asymptomatic, as they say, condition that like aesthetically doesn't look good, and obviously the person has very high levels of cholesterol, which is of a concern. And having said that, I would still like to add that, it is important to publish case reports, case series, and carnivore diet is something that doesn't have much data on it. I know there are some case reports of using carnivore diet in certain clinical scenarios published by Nick Norwitz. He has his own YouTube channel and looks like he's a big promoter of carnivore diets. There is this big study when they did a survey on people who are following carnivore diet and showed some outcomes, results. There's like 2,000 participants in this survey. All these things, quite frankly, have their significant limitations in terms of their methodology, but I still believe that, carnivore diet is a very appealing concept to a lot of people. I'm not against it. I'm not pro carnivore. What I'm interested in as a health practitioner, researcher, scientist, and somebody who actually likes meat and tends to gravitate towards carnivorous nutrition, I would like to have more data, and I hope that, at certain point when we get more and more case reports, case series, surveys, somebody will actually invest some money into doing a clinical trial where they will have a couple of hundred participants going on, say, standard American diet, Mediterranean diet, vegan diet, and carnivore diet, maybe rational diet, and we'll see what will happen to different participants, like in relatively large groups of 40, 50 people over the course of time in some controlled environment. And we've got intervention, when we got several actual interventions and some comparators. So that is something that I hope will happen in the future, and I believe that this kind of reports are actually paving the way towards that. And returning to the actual report, I think it's very sensationalist. I think that the authors could have done much better job with outlining, making the case, and that's pretty much it. I'm happy that we have something on carnivore diet, and I will keep searching for good data, good research, and obviously reporting to you and making videos about carnivorous diet, carnivore diet, keto diet. I still have some ideas in terms of keto, what we can talk about. And I guess that will be it for today. I will work on other projects. And if you like this kind of content, obviously hit the like button, subscribe, leave comments, ask me questions. Maybe I have presented the case report in a way that you didn't like and you have some questions for me, or you would like me to clarify certain things. So I'm always for any kind of communication on YouTube channel, on my website, Dr. Sam's Health. I describe quite a few dietary approaches in my book, The Rational Diet. And again, I will keep working on researching and studying different nutritional approaches. So I will see you in my next video, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you.